right, cool. Hi, I'm Zoe, and today we're going to be doing an e-commerce page tutorial. We're going to be building something that looks a little bit like this over here, because this is just a simple page from an e-commerce site. We're not going to build out the entire thing. We're going to focus on it component by component and starting with this page. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat here on YouTube, and yeah, let's get started. All right, so first things first, we want to go ahead and I'm going to pull up Visual Studio Code here. And what I'm going to do here is I have a repository here that I've already created from this template. This public free template is basically Next.js, Material UI, and TypeScript all sort of already put together. So that's available for free on my GitHub. It's also linked down below. And so what we're going to do, we're going to use this template over here to basically, there we go. Yeah, to start to build up and spin up our app a lot faster. And so we're going to be using Material UI in order to build our project, just to make the component building a little bit easier. So first things first, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go ahead and install everything that's in this. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat while this is installing. Cool. We'll just let that install. Awesome. But yeah, just to show you what the site looks like a little bit more large. So yeah, we're going to build a desktop version for this today. So it's going to be, this like really basic sort of couple of component pieces. We're going to have our navigation, our cart, and then just this basic add to cart button setup. We're going to be using Redux today or Zustand. I can show you both sort of examples if people are interested in that, to see basically what's the best way to build out this site for us. Cool. So let's go ahead. Let's see there. Let me just see if this is installed yet. All right. But yeah, as I said, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Awesome. Okay, cool. Looks like we're good to go. Awesome. So I'm going to pull up localhost 3000 over here. And if we've done everything correct, awesome. Yeah, we have our Next.js site. Perfect, you're good to go. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and hop into the pages folder here. And just full disclosure, I've dropped all of the assets for this this design already in the public folder, in a folder I've named assets, just to make things a little bit quicker. But you can get all of them from this site called Frontend Mentor, where this is where I actually got the design from as well. So yeah, Frontend Mentor, you can grab the designs, you can grab the assets and get started on this. All right, so hopping over into our app, I'm going to hop into the index.tsx file and just clear everything out so we can get a fresh start. Cool, so I'm going to clear that up. And I'm just going to clear out this main component here. Awesome. Cool. So now we have a cleaned up look right here. Perfect. Next thing we're going to want to do is take a look at our design, right? So we have a few different components that we want to build here. I really want to focus a little bit more, less on the design. Like, we're going to make the design, but we want to focus a little bit more on the actual like functional cart components, the global state elements of this. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to start with the nav, build a really quick nav, and then jump into this bottom part. So first things first, let's create a components folder. And I'm going to create a new file and call that navigation.tsx. I'm going to create a component and save that. And then we'll just go ahead and import this here. And we can save that. Now, depending on your app, you might want to import your navigation into your underscore app.tsx. It really depends on sort of what you're building, the style, design, and the scope. For this, again, it's really simple. We're not going to build anything too crazy, so I'm just going to focus on with a simple nav. I'm also going to do something where I'm going to wrap the entire app in a container. That's just going to make the styling a little bit cleaner. Save that, and I'll import it. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead. So the navigation has the logo, I guess, or the title, sneakers, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 menu items on the left, and then the cart and the, I guess, the user icon on the right. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and using a few material UI components like box, I'm gonna save that, import that, and then just build this out into probably 2 divs or boxes that use material UI, and then just set the display on this one to flex. So again, if you haven't used material UI before, the SX prop is used for styling. So it allows you to access basically what would be the same thing as the style prop on any other HTML element. So we're gonna go ahead and set the display to flex. And we'll leave that like that for now. And then I'm just gonna create 2 boxes within it. And let's go ahead. All right, so the first box, let's take a look at our assets and see if we get a logo. We do get a logo. Awesome. So first box, we're gonna start with a logo. So I'm gonna import the image component from Next.image. That's just gonna allow us to use a local static image. So the image component, if you hover over it, it'll tell you it needs to have an alt prop, and it tells you what's missing. It's missing a source, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it also needs a width and a height. So the source will be, I believe it's /assets/logo.svg, something like that. It might be the /public dot slash. Oh, it's missing the width property. Let's say the width is, let's go 24, and the height is, let's say, or maybe we'll change the width to like 40, height to 24. Save that. Okay, yeah, cool. There it is. Awesome. So we imported it correctly. I think we make it a little bit wider. Yep, 60. Save that. Or maybe even 100. All right, yeah. And I don't want to spend too much time on the styling here, but that that should be good enough for now. All right, cool. Sneakers collection, men, women, about. All right, so the next ones are going to be typography elements. And that's just a general text element that we can use there. Collections, yeah. And I'm just going to make a couple of these really quickly. All right, cool. And this is missing an alt. That's why it's giving me that error. Cool. Save that. Good. All right, cool. So we have this first left-hand side. Now we need the right-hand side. So there's going to be a cart and this like circle with the profile image of the person. I think Material UI probably has an icon for the cart, so you can probably just grab that. Let's search for a cart. Yeah, shopping cart. So we can just borrow this. There we go. Okay. Cool. And that will be one thing in here. And then the second one is going to be that image. I wonder if they gave us the avatar. I think it's probably this one, image avatar. Yeah, there it is. All right, so image avatar.png. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab, we're going to use a next image. We actually don't even need the box since it appears to already be circular. So we're going to go image-avatar.png. I'm going to save that. All right. Okay, cool. That's a bit too wide, but other than that, seems to be working well. All right, cool. Awesome. So a couple things I want to change here. I want to change the display here so that it's flex and it displays in a row. And then I also want these two sections of information to be separated from each other. So we just need to add a couple of different properties here. So we're going to change this one to display flex. So this is where the logo is, as well as the menu item headers. Save that. And then for the larger box, I want the justify content value to be space between, so that they like go to opposite ends essentially. Cool, perfect. So that's exactly what we want. All right, final thing that I'm going to touch up here is I'm just going to add some margin to each of these elements down below here. So I'm going to highlight the first typography and then just add the same margin right of 1 rem and save that. And then for the image, and then, oh no, for the first one, I'll add a margin left as well. Left of 1 rem. And actually the last one does not need the margin right. Actually, I could have just done margin left, but it's all right. Clean that up. All right. And I think the general box itself needs some padding. So I'll add some padding of just 2 rem all around. And this doesn't quite look aligned, so I just want to align that to be center. And save that. Oh, I need to align the other one. All right, good enough for now. And then last thing I'll do here is put some margin between the cart and the avatar. Maybe make the avatar a little bit bigger. And then but yeah, go ahead and drop any comments that you have in the chat, and I will answer them as we go along. Okay, cool. That's good enough for me for now. We'll turn that into a button as well. Like we can wrap it in a button for now, because it is going to be something that handles an on click for us. Cool. And import that from Material UI. Awesome. Cool. I'm not going to worry about styling the like the header names right now, just because it's not really relevant to our goal. But let's go ahead and focus now on the lower part here. So this like sneakers display, and then the actual like information here. So I'll close out navigation for the time being, and I'll head back into index. And this time I'm going to want to go ahead. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it, let's say, product display. Or let's call it product.tsx, and then we'll make components with this. So this could be the product. Maybe it'll be the product container. Cool. Save that, and we'll import that into our index. Cool. Save that. Perfect. And then go ahead and turn that into a box. Import that from Material UI. All right, cool. And then yeah, within this, we're gonna need like kind of a left side and a right side. So we want our like images display and the text. So let's do an image display on the left side and a text display on the right side. So we'll do image display.tsx. And then we'll make one more. And you can call these things anything. A product images and product text would be a better name, but whatever you want to call them, it's totally up to you. There we go. Cool. Awesome. All right, cool. We have the two of them there. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to change the display to flex. And I'm going to say, or I'll just leave it that for now, and we can change that up if we need to. All right, so for the image display, it's going to be one big image and then 4 little images. So basically just 2 elements, like just the one image, and then like probably another div with the 4 elements lined up one after the other. So for that, we're gonna do the same thing with boxes basically. So let's go ahead and from image, next image, we're gonna need a bunch of these. All right, so first things first, we need to figure out which images we're importing. So the image is, well, that one's a thumbnail. Probably don't want that one. Image product. Oh, okay, I got you. The product one and the product one thumbnail. Okay, that makes sense. So let's do image product 1. And I guess the idea is that they carousel through when you click on them, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. We're going to set the width of this to 500 and the height to 600. Is it a square? It's about a square, actually. Make it 500. Save that. Alt equals sneakers. Cool. So that's our first image. You'll notice the borders are kind of curved down here. We want to add a border radius probably to this. So I think we can maybe access the style prop because this is not a material UI element. This is like a Next.js element. So we're going to set the border radius to be maybe 2 rem. Yeah, that looks about right. Cool. Actually 1 rem, sorry. And that'll just be what we set the other ones to as well, so it matches. All right, cool. And then for the images below now, we're just going to do pretty much the same thing except with smaller images. So we're going to change this to maybe 100 by 100. Maybe that's even a little bit too big. No, that should be all right. And then copy this style as well. And then, yeah, we're going to have 4 images down at the bottom here. Cool. Got a general question in the chat. Let's answer it. There's a general question, but is React better suited for building e-commerce sites? Or I guess what I'm asking also is there sites React is better suited for? I think it depends on what you're trying to build. You know, I think the tool is only as good as you can use it. I think if you as a developer want to learn React, then learn React and you'll be able to figure out how to build a lot of things with it. I think it's sort of more like what you're more comfortable with. And then also what packages are available. I think there are a lot of packages available to work with React and like with NPM and things like that. I'm not as familiar though with Angular and Vue and these other frameworks and libraries. So I can't specifically comment on how those may not be as well suited, but I do know that React is an extremely versatile library that many frameworks have been built off of. And so it's really, it's a good thing that, you know, to use sort of regardless of what you're building. And I'm sure many an e-commerce site is built on React. But good question. All right, so let's drop 4 images here and we'll just change up the numbers to match. So 2, 3, and 4. We'll save that. And then I'm just going to change the style up with this box. Display flex and justify content. It's going to be space between. Let's save that. Awesome. Last thing I'll do here is just add a margin to the top of 1 rem. And that looks like pretty decent to what we want it to look like. All right, next step. we want to build out this little side piece here. And again, I'm not super concerned with the styles. Like we'll build it pretty nice, but like I'm more concerned about with the functionality and like building this cart modal here. So let's go ahead. Fall limited sneakers. That's limited edition sneakers. All right, so that's what it's supposed to look like. Fall limited edition sneakers. So we'll close out our image display for now, and we'll open up our text display. And all right, so on the top, actually, there's sneaker company. So I'm guessing you would change that to the name of your sneaker company. But for now, we'll just leave that as is. I'll say sneaker company. And then we have limited edition, fall limited edition sneakers. Save that. And then we have this description here. I think I can grab it from here too. Yeah. All right, cool. Good to go. Gotcha. Let's use. So it's giving me just a little error here because the apostrophe. So we'll just use another sort of built-in character that they use for apostrophes in order to not confuse the two, because apostrophes are sort of things that we use within the code itself. All right, cool. So we have the text there. And we have it up on screen here. Awesome. So I guess we'll want to do a little bit of styling here. So we can set this to be, what was it? Text transform. Because I believe it was totally uppercase in that other example. And then we can set the color to be whatever this orange color in the background here, using our color picker. We'll grab that and we'll use that as our color. Awesome. And then we'll set the font weight. Whoops. Font weight to be like 800. Awesome. Cool. The next one is going to be our limited edition sneakers. And that one's going to be probably, I don't know, like 2.5 rem. That's pretty good. Yeah. And then we'll go font weight, like 700. That's pretty decent. And then the bottom one, we're just going to leave alone. We'll just add some margin to the top and bottom of these. So margin, we're going to add maybe 2 rem. And yeah, cool. Next thing we want to do here, this photo might actually be a little bit too big. Maybe I can make it a little bit smaller. Or maybe I should make it more responsive, I should say. But I'm gonna just set it to be maybe 400 by 400 instead. And then change all of these images to be 75 by 75 instead, just to make them a little bit smaller. And then what I'm gonna do here is separate these two in a space between. So I'm just gonna justify the content and set it to space between. Hey, from Brazil, thank you. Nice to see you. All right, cool. And I think we might just be running out of space at this point. Let's see, just my content space between. And let's see if I can set a margin on this. Margin left, 2 rem. Save that. All right, cool. That looks pretty decent for now. Next thing we're going to want to do, and this is kind of where we start to really touch the Redux and sort of the more state important things, we want to go ahead and drop in the price and the sort of buttons and that sort of like really important add to cart button here. So we'll go ahead and drop the price in as just a label at the bottom. So we'll start with that. So it was 125. Okay. And then we'll put the button, the toggle underneath it, and the add to cart. All right, so the toggle now, I think I'm gonna make another component for this because this is kind of like, we're now sort of getting into that stateful world. So I'm gonna call this the, let's say the sneaker, or the add to cart, not TSX. Cool. And we'll bring that into our text display. Actually, we don't have to bring it into our text display. That's not really necessary. We can bring this we can wrap our text display in a box. And then we can bring this into here. So it'll be our add to cart. And then it'll still be, yeah, just below our text display there. All right, cool. And so if we go into our add to cart, so matches, maybe 2 row. Cool. Let's go ahead and create a toggle. Actually, I think Material UI must have some sort of toggle. So let's go see what they have available to us. Or it's not quite a toggle. It's like a count, +1, -1, or it's really a counter. And actually, you know what? We've already built a counter in the past. We can build a counter really quickly. All right, so let's go ahead and build a counter. So what we need to do is, it's going to be 1 box for the counter and 1 box for the actual, or just a button, really, not a box. And another one that has a button that has the cart. We can actually use the same cart icon that we use in our nav. So we can grab that shopping cart icon. Grab that, drop that in there, and shopping cart icon. And beside it says add to cart. And we should import button as well from Material UI. That'd be useful. Cool. Awesome. So we have the button. Let's do the toggle now. So the toggle is, as I said, just a regular counter. So we're going to set a const. That's going to be count. We're going to set count equals. We're going to use state. State from React. And we're going to set it to 0 for now. And then what we're going to have within this box is a plus and a minus button. So we're going to have one button that is a plus, or should be minus on the left, plus on the right. And then a second button that is a plus on the right. Cool. And then we want to show the count between those two. Awesome. Perfect. So then what we want to do is we want to give this a background, like it has this like grayish background color. So we'll set the background color to be like light gray. Save that. All right. And oh yeah, that we'll also have to make this outer box like display flex so that it wraps around. So they're like on the same line. There we go. So yeah, so it's not so like long. Oops. And then we'll go ahead, or I think maybe it's slate gray. There's like a lighter gray we probably want than that. Let's go with this gray. Yeah, we don't want it so dark. We want to be able to see our text. Cool. And then we'll set the border radius to match so that the style matches. And that was 1. Cool. All right, so we have our button. We have, oh, we need to also give our add to cart a color. So let's grab that color one more time. Or I think let's grab that color. Yeah, it's this one here. And we'll give the add to color button background color of that orange as well. Just be consistent with the theme. Then we can change the text color as well so we can see it to be white. And we'll save that. Awesome, cool, looking pretty good. So the next thing that we're going to want to do, just add some margin to this. Yeah, next thing we want to do is actually make the toggle leg do something, because right now it does absolutely nothing. So let's go ahead and sort of set an add and a subtract. So basically what we want to do is set on clicks for each of these buttons. So on click for the plus button, we want to go ahead and take whatever the count is and set the count to be whatever the count is, oops, +1. Set count to be count +1 and save that. And then for this one now, what we want to do is we want to set this on click to be the opposite essentially. So we're going to set the count to be count -1. We'll save that. Cool. Awesome. If we've done it right, when we click plus, it goes up, and when we click minus, it goes down. Awesome. So really simple counter. There are a bunch of optimizations we can do, like making sure it doesn't go below -1 or below 0, but we'll leave that alone for the moment. The last thing I want to do now is just to give these a little bit of space between each other. So I'm going to set the justify content again to space between. And that's just for the counter and the button to have a little bit of space. Save that. Might be a little bit too much space. Or maybe this could be a little bit wider. So let's go ahead, make that a little bit wider. Let's give it some padding. Oh, whoops. Give the padding to the button itself. Save that. Awesome. Cool. Looks pretty decent. I think just touch up this count and we should be good to go. All right. Cool. Awesome. Oh, yeah, I gotta import that to the file. Awesome. And then cool. Looking pretty decent. All right, cool. So next thing we're gonna want to do now, right? We have this like general mock-up of what it's supposed to look like. We want to create that add to cart modal, right? So we have our design here, but then when we add something to the cart, we want it to actually show up here. And this is where we're going to start hooking into our state. So when we hit this add to cart button down on the right here that we just created, we want it to either pop this up or just like give us a little like indication or something should happen. And then we can like click on the cart and then this modal should pop up. All right, simple enough. So what we want to do is actually head back to probably our nav and we'll build a separate cart component, but then hook it up through our nav. So let's go ahead and build this little piece right here. So we'll create a new file. We'll call it cart. Oops. Cart.tsx. Cool. And if you do want to comment, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That will allow you to be able to comment if you'd like to ask a question or anything. Cool. Save that. All right. And so this cart now, it's like a little just like modal situation. It says cart, and then it shows like whatever the item is, and it has a big checkout button. All right. So let's go ahead and make that. So it says cart. So we already have a cart. We can set the typography so that we can change it up if we'd like to. Import box. Cool. And I believe it's divider that they use to set like a divider across something. And then we'll need like a cart item. This might actually need to be a separate thing that we do. Let me think about this. So basically for each item that we're going to have stored, we're going to have to create one of these things. Okay, so, or I guess we just have one. No, we could just have one and then display it whether or not there's something in the cart. Yeah, that's probably simpler. All right, so let's go ahead and create that. So let's say, let's create a box, and it's going to have the image on one side. So we can actually grab that from the image display. We'll grab the thumbnail of the first one. We'll drop that in there. We'll make it super tiny. We'll make it probably like 25 by 25. And import this from next image. Cool. And then fall limited edition sneakers, and then we'll have like a dynamic element to that. So the box is going to be a flex box, again, because we love doing flex boxes. Save that. And then the second one is going to be, there's going to be a second box where all of this stuff lives. So it's going to be fall limited, or this part is going to live in typography. Fall limited edition sneakers. And then we'll have a sneakers. And then we'll have a second one that is, so this is going to be dynamic, right? So it's going to be 125 times whatever that number is, and then it's going to be whatever that amount is. So we don't know the last two of those three elements. So I'm going to put in the 125 times, and then I guess we can put like a count. Const mock count for now, just to give us something to work with. And const, and then actually we can just calculate it based on the mock count. So we'll do 125 by mock count, and then the final part there is the total. So that's going to be let's do mock count times 125. So that should give us the right answer there. All right, cool. So if we've done all this right, when I hook it up, it should just like show up pretty decently. We do need to probably set it, like set the Z index to be above. It's to be like 5. And yeah, let's see if we can get this to show up when we click on the nav. So I'm going to create, within our navigation now, right? I'm going to create a piece of state called show cart or hide cart, or like, is cart visible? Say view cart. And it's going to be false. It's going to start out being false, and then we're going to toggle it, and it's going to be true. All right. So if I go back down to, where is it? The shopping cart button. If I create an on click, and on click, I want to set view cart to be the opposite of whatever view cart is currently, right? So if it's false, I want it to be true. If it's true, I want it to be false. So basically the expectation is when I click on this button, it's going to trigger that and make it true or false. So then the final thing I want to do here is right at the bottom, I want to import cart. Save that. Oops, cart from /cart. Cool. And cool. So we're seeing it now. It doesn't look super great. We probably have to set the position to be absolute as well. And then, oh yeah, it should have a background color so that we don't see all the stuff behind it. Awesome. And does it have a border? I'm assuming, yeah. box shadow. Let's look up the syntax for box shadow. Okay, gotcha. Spread. We're gonna say gray. Border radius is gonna be 1 rem. Light gray. Okay, cool. And then it probably needs a little bit more padding as well. And probably to be pushed off from the top just a tad. Oh yeah, it's actually supposed to be all the way on the bottom below. So let's say okay, cool. And let me just clean it up on the inside now, make it look a little bit more presentable. So we have the cart, we have this divider. We probably need a little bit more margin, yeah, below the divider and above that box there. So let's add that in here. And then I'll add some margin right to the image. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Cool. Yeah, and that looks like pretty much it. Like, oh, we do have a delete button. Let me not forget that. There is a delete button on the right side. It's like a trash icon. Trash can. Let me import it from Material UI. Trash. Yeah. Cool. Delete icon. Cool. Save that. And awesome. Cool. Save that too. Perfect. Awesome. So that looks pretty decent. I think we can sort of highlight a few things here. We can just make this look a little bit more pronounced. This like actual final total, because you want to know like what your final total is. It's just like a little UX thing there. Oh, you know what? It might be because I put it as a box. Can I just make it a span and change that to style? Ah, should change it to font weight. That would probably be the issue. Cool. Awesome. How does it look there? Oh, it has a $sign as well. Okay. Awesome. Cool. That's pretty much what we got there. And then, oh yeah, we need our checkout button, but the checkout button's not actually going to do anything. We'll put that right at the bottom there. So that's going to be below this box. So we'll take the button. We'll say checkout. Save that. And we need to import button. Cool. And the background color is going to be this orange. probably make it a little bit brighter, to be honest, but this works for now. I'm going to save that. And we'll change the color to be white so it's legible. Add some padding around it, just so we can do with the other button. And cool. I think we just need to center everything and we should be all right. Or I could even just make this one. I think I can set the width to 100%. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. So that's, I think, a pretty decent mock-up, like super quick mock-up, where we don't want to spend our entire thing on styling. And, oh yeah, I need to also hook it up so that it shows or does not show based on the state there. So what we're going to do, we're using a ternary operator. We basically want to show the cart. So view cart, if it's true, yes, we want to view the cart. If false, then we just want to show null. We don't want to show anything. So when I click on this now, you'll see that it toggles really nicely. All right, awesome. Cool. So we've done our initial styling. The next thing we want to tackle now is that state, right? That global state. Now, as I mentioned before, there are a couple ways you can handle this. We can handle this with Redux, or we can handle it with Zustand. It kind of depends on what your preference is. I'm going to show you how to set it up with Redux, and then if you want to set it up with Zustand, that's something we can definitely do as well. Comment down below if that's something you want to see. So, first things first, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it store. And this is just going to be where we put all of our like global state related things. And then before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm actually going to go to the Redux documentation so that you can see how I would do this if I was setting it up. Well, I am setting it up for the first time, but just how I would get started with it. So I want to set this up using something called Redux Toolkit. So what that's going to involve is installing Redux. So they give you this, like, when you go to the Redux Toolkit website, they give you basically like the way to do it with, like, if you set up a new app using their sort of like create React template, but we're not going to do that. We're going to actually install it in an existing project because we've already built this project. We could have built the project using there, but then it would have been a lot more to install. So we're going to go ahead and install Redux Toolkit. And just in case we need the React bindings, I'm going to install that as well, just to be sure. So now that Redux is installed, we can go ahead and create a store. And I'm pretty sure they have like a how to set up your store sort of thing. So we'll follow that. So just so you can get an idea of how you would do this for yourself. Let's see, getting started with Redux. All right, cool. So this is their basic example. So we're going to basically follow this basic example. So what I'm going to go do here right now is in the store, I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call it store.ts and save that. And then I'm going to do exactly what they do here. So I'm going to say import create store from Redux. Create store is deprecated. Ooh, that's exciting. All right, well, let's see if it works. Sometimes documentation is outdated. Let me make sure I'm working with the right version here. Quick start. Oh, okay, got you. This is the one we want to use. So don't actually do create store. Do configure store. And this is going to be from Redux.js toolkit, like the package we actually installed. That makes more sense. All right, cool. And then we're going to export the store, and we're going to call configure store, and then we're going to build our reducer object. Cool. And if you're like looking at this and then you like follow through and you still don't get it, I have another project on my GitHub account called audiophile. It has like a much more extensive storage following the same logic. You can definitely check that out after this if you are still confused, or if you want to like leave a comment down below, I can definitely respond to your comments. All right, so moving forward, we want to return the type of the store and the apt dispatch. Okay, so I'm just going to copy these two pieces here. This is more to do with TypeScript, so if you're not using TypeScript, not as important. But now that we've created the store, we now need to provide the store to React so that React knows that the store exists. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky and where it's sort of ideal to have it already pre-built. But we're going to try and do this ourselves. So I'm going to import the store from, this is in our app.tsx file. I'm going to go ahead and import the store from ./app/store, or that's not where it is, where is it? .store/store. Cool, there it is. And then we want to import the provider from React Redux. Cool. And so the provider, basically what it does, it is going to be something that wraps our entire application and basically gives or provides the global state to all of the components that live underneath it. So I'm going to go here into the app itself, and then outside the theme provider, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap that there. So provider, and I'm going to say store equals store. And some people don't like Redux for this reason. Like, there's just a lot of boilerplate you got to set up. And then there's a lot of troubleshooting. Like, if this doesn't work, then what do we got to try to get it to work, etc., etc. So it's not ideal, but it's definitely a library that is highly used and very popular and prevalent because it does allow you to do very complex things. All right, cool. Let's see if we get any errors so far. No errors. All right, so far so good. Cool. So the next thing we're going to want to do is create a slice. So something that Redux does is, Redux Toolkit specifically, has worked with things called slices. So slices are basically just these like sort of segmented pieces of state. And if you're going to be creating a bigger application, I'd highly recommend using slices. So I'm going to create one today, even though this is a one-page application, just to sort of show you what a slice would look like. So I'm going to, back in my store file here, I'm going to create a slice called cart slice. It doesn't have to be called cart slice, but we're going to call it cart slice. And then I'm going to import, just following this documentation on the right here, import create slice from Redux Toolkit. And then I'm going to import the type of the payload. Actually, I don't know if we're going to actually need this. We might. And then this is like where we start to get into the creating of the slice itself. So I'm going to export interface. And this is basically the state of the slice. So it's going to be cart state. And I'm probably going to have, well, really the only thing we need to do is have a count. So I'm going to call it item count. And it's going to be a number. We're going to save that. And then the initial state. And again, if this was a more complex cart, you had a more complex website with multiple products, you might want to consider storing like the product data in here. But again, because it's a very simple application, we just need to store the count. I think that's going to be very simple for us. So we're going to create the initial state. And again, this is like, part of it is Redux Toolkit, part of it's TypeScript. It's going to be cart state. And this is just setting what that initial value should be. And so that item count should be 0. So it starts, initial state, starts at 0. Cool. Awesome. Next thing we're going to want to do is to create that actual slice, right? So we're going to say export const cart slice, and we're going to call that create slice function. And cool. So within this now, this is where we start to really build our slice itself, we build our global state. So we're going to name it cart, and we're going to pass in the initial state. Some people, you can also just declare the state in here, but we're passing it in. And then we're going to create our reducers. And so the reducers are basically like the actions, like when this happens, do something to whatever, right? So I am going to want, really all I need is like an add to cart. So like when I hit add to cart, maybe delete from cart as well. Yeah, because there's a delete button. So I'm going to want to add to cart and remove from cart. Those are I think the only two reducers I'm going to need. So basically I'll take all of that logic within our our add to cart component. And so what this is going to do, I'm going to add an on click this button here, this add to cart button. And so when I hit add to cart here, it's going to take whatever that value of that count is, and it's going to port it over to our store. So that's what we're going to do. So we just need to worry about add to cart and delete from cart or remove from cart. So I'm going to say add to cart. It's going to be my first reducer. We're going to take state. I'm going to take state dot item count equals, and I actually have to pass in the action because it's going to take a payload. Like it's the payload that's going to be what we added. So the state dot item count is going to be the action dot payload. We're going to save that. Cool. So that's add to cart. Next one we want to set up is remove from cart. Very similar, except we won't need the action. So we're just going to take state and state dot item count equals 0. And that's going to be that. We're just going to set it to be non-existent anymore. And so basically what we can do then is say like when the item count is 0, we could say there are no items in the cart. So that's how we're going to basically work with that. Cool. So we've done the like creating of the slice piece. Now we just need to export everything. So you want to export the add to cart and remove from cart, and we're destructuring it from cart slice dot actions. Cool. We're gonna save that, and then we also want to export our reducer. So we're gonna export default cart slice dot reducer, and we're going to save that. Cool. And then we need to add the reducer to the store, and then it should be generally hooked up. So let's go back to our store.ts. Yeah. And then we just need to import the reducer. So we'll go ahead and import cart reducer. I mean, you could call it cart slice, you call it whatever you want, but again, the convention here is import cart reducer from dot slash cart slice. And then within the store here, we're going to say cart, and it's going to be our cart reducer. We're going to save that. And cool, we've exported everything, so we should be good to go. Now, how do you go ahead and use this, right? We've definitely used this like sort of style before, but let's dive into how you'd actually like use selector and use dispatch, which are two really important hooks for this. Let me hop into the comments real quick. If you use storage, what would you recommend? What do you mean for storage? Are you talking about like images? Or are you talking about videos? Add another like piece of the comment there, and I'll definitely respond. But Google Cloud storage is an option. You know, it kind of depends on your budget and what you know, what sort of media you're looking to store. But yeah, definitely add some more to the comments, and I'll respond to that as well. All right, so next thing we want to do here is go ahead and within our app, we want to start using this, right? So I guess the first thing we could do to see if it's working, we could check in our add to cart, and where we had that like set count sort of thing, or not even that, actually, that's not the best place to check for it. Let's check for it in our cart. That's the better place to check for it. So instead of using our mock count, we can use a real count. So we're going to say const count equals use selector, which will import from React Redux. And we're going to say state, which is the type root state, which we'll get from the store. And it's going to be state.cart.item count. Let's save that. So that's going to be our count. And so if we console.log count and save that, we should just see 0 in our console. Let's clear that, refresh that. Oh, I need to open the cart. That'd be really useful. Cool. Awesome. So we're seeing 0. So we know that we've hooked it up correctly. Cool. Next thing we want to do is, well, we can get rid of the mock count now. So we can just use real count now that we know that it's working. And we'll change both places where it says mock count to count. Save that. And then we will, so we want to do two things here, right? We want to not show this if it is, the count is 0. And then we also want to be able to add to the cart. Like we want to be able to add things to the count essentially. So let's add to the count and then we'll close this off if it's 0, just so we have more to test with. So on add to cart, so when they click this button, I want it to dispatch a function, right? So hopping back over to our example data here, we want to use this hook here. So use dispatch from React Redux. So at the top of the file, I'm going to do just what they did here. I'm going to declare a variable called dispatch. And I'm going to say use dispatch. And I'm going to call on click. So this is our add to cart button. I'm going to add an on click parameter. And I'm going to say on click, I want you to dispatch add to cart. But remember, add to cart takes in a value. So I want to dispatch add to cart with the count. So whatever the current value of the cart is, I want you to dispatch that, but with that value of that count so that we know, what it is. So again, if we've done this correctly, now that we've kind of hooked it up a little bit better. So if I press plus to 4 and I hit add to cart and I go to the cart now, you'll see here we have 125 times 4 and we have $500. So we know that we're actually like hooking it up correctly, right? So it's really, really simple to get started with Redux once you kind of hook up all that boilerplate. I mean, it's not terribly difficult, but there are easier ways to do it. Like if we were to go ahead and do the exact same thing with Zustand, as you've seen me do in other videos before, it's super, super simple. Like we'd install Zustand, and then all of this, like creating store, creating reducers, could be handled in literally a few lines of code, right? So we'd import create from Zustand, which is the same thing as what we did in configure store and create slice and all of that. We'd import create from Zustand. We'd export a store. So we'd say use store, create, and then bears here is actually just our item count. So we just create our item count, and then these reducers, add to cart or remove cart, is what they have here is increase population and remove all bears. So it's super, super, super simple to do this with Zustand. And if we have something like as simple as our app, I would highly, highly recommend using something like this instead of Redux. Like there's no need to set up all that boilerplate. However, I will say having practice and experience with Redux is essential because not every company, or not most companies, might not be using Zustand because it is more limited in terms of scope. Like this can't handle a huge application with a lot of moving parts as easily. It would involve a lot more tooling. So it is good to have the experience with Redux, but I'd recommend using it on a bigger project where you can really sort of leverage the things you can do with it. All right, so now that we have our $500 showing up here, the last couple of things I'm going to want to do is go to the cart, and I want to do two things. So I want to be able to, let's see, I want to set this button to do something. So when I hit the delete icon, I'm going to actually turn it into a button. And it's like semantically proper to make things that you want to click on and like have something happen, a button. Like it's better for the experience, user experience. So we're going to say on click. Oh, and you know what? I need to add the dispatch function, the dispatch. Access it. Yeah, access the hook here. Equals use dispatch. And then, yeah, so on click here, I want to dispatch remove from cart. Yeah, remove from cart. I just want to call that. And remember that this one doesn't take any parameters, it just needs to be called. So if I add 3, add it to cart, and I hit this, perfect. It sets it to 0. So that's exactly what we want to happen. All right, couple final things now, just that we mentioned we were going to do. So if the cart is 0, I don't want any of this to show up because there's nothing to check out. There's nothing to like work here. I think that even in the designs, they might have had like an empty version of this. Yeah, it says your cart is empty. So basically what I want to access here is I want to check for the count. So if the count equals 0, right? Then instead, I just want to return a simple typography element that says your cart is empty. Maybe we'll end up turning into a box and giving it a little bit of styling, but the general gist of it is if the count is empty, we don't want to show anything else. Oh, and it's giving me an error because this does not have a parent element. So I'm just going to create an empty element right there just to give it a parent. All right, cool. So awesome. So now it works. So count is 0, your cart is empty. Count is 3, something in the cart. Delete it, it's gone. Your cart is empty. Cool, that works. The last thing I think I'm gonna wanna do here is I want to nullify or zero out the cart once I hit that add to cart button, right? Because right now it's staying at 3, even though the cart is saying it's empty. So on click, when I dispatch that add to cart, I also want to do one more thing. I want to set the count to be 0. That way I don't need to keep like resetting it manually if I come back to the page. So I'm going to dispatch this count to 0. All right, and so if I refresh this page now, and I can close up the console because we're not using it. If I add 3 to the cart, add to the cart, pop up here, awesome. A couple other things we could do here is like add that little number to show up. That little like, oh, there are 3 in the cart. That's something you could do. You know, have it like flash when it's added to the cart. That's another thing you could do. But it's really sort of the whole point of this is to really just be able to access these values, right? Because if you can't access the value, you can't do any of the cool stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the point here. If you do have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below, drop them in the chat. And if you do have any questions about coding or anything like that, you can definitely reach out to me directly at davidsonprogrammingacademy.com. We are actually going to be having a crazy sale next week for Black Friday. Currently, we have 3 levels of membership offered. We have our basic, our pro, and our unlimited. And what each of those memberships allow you to do is learn how to code, learn how to do stuff like this, but one-on-one with a mentor. So if you sign up for our pro or on unlimited plans, you will get to meet with a mentor at least once a month, depending on which plan you choose and how many meetings you opt in for. And you'll be able to, you know, learn HTML, CSS, React, JavaScript, TypeScript, testing, how to interview, how to not just like how to talk to somebody interview, but how to literally do coding mock interviews, which are some of the hardest things that you're going to have to pass as a front-end engineer. Some people say the interviews are actually harder than the job itself. But when you sign up for our program, that is something that we work with you one-on-one with until you get that job. So as I said, we have our 3 tiers of membership. We're going to be having a crazy sale next week, probably 50% off our already affordable membership price. Our memberships are currently, I think, about $14.99 for the basic, $24.99 for the pro. Not quite sure where the unlimited is currently priced at, but we're going to be having a sale on all of that. So you should be able to grab it at a crazy low price. And again, start coding this year and make this the best year ever, and learn how to code. And yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a worthwhile investment if you're serious about changing your career or getting into a new industry and getting a new job. So anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below. Reach out to me directly. You can always book a free call with me. Info on that is on the website. And I'll see you guys in the next one.